Hello, family, friends, and colleagues. Many of you know me. I'm Jordan Howlette, and I stand before you today on this recording, not just as a colleague, a friend, a brother, or a son, but as an Army intelligence veteran, a former Department of Justice trial attorney, and a current civil rights lawyer. Most importantly, though, I stand here as an American who believes deeply in the promise of our democracy and in the fundamental principle that all people are created equal. All people. I grew up in a household that exemplified political diversity. My father was a registered Republican and my mother was a registered Democrat. They taught me that differing viewpoints can coexist with mutual respect and understanding, but that civil rights should transcend party lines. Now, this upbringing shaped my moderate political perspective. I believe strongly in fiscal responsibility and balanced budgets, while at the same time advocating for the advancement of civil rights that ensure access to equal opportunities for all people. Again, all people. However, today we find ourselves at a critical juncture in our nation's history, where the traditional philosophical differences between the parties have evolved into something far more concerning: a fundamental debate over human rights and dignity. Now, as someone who has dedicated their career to protecting civil rights, I cannot remain silent at this ever so important 11th hour in our upcoming election. My husband and I have carefully considered the implications of the upcoming election, and our conclusion is rooted not in partisan loyalty, but in a clear-eyed assessment of the facts and their implications for our future. Let me share why. As a veteran who served our country, I was deeply troubled and still am deeply troubled when it was reported that Donald Trump referred to fallen service members as, quote, losers and, quote, suckers. These were my brothers and sisters in arms, patriots who had made the ultimate sacrifice for our protection and liberties. Such disrespect for their service contradicts everything I learned about honor and duty in the military. As a civil rights attorney, I cannot ignore the documented pattern of Donald Trump's discrimination that spans decades. The 1973 Department of Justice lawsuit against Trump management for widespread housing discrimination against African American tenants. The years Trump spent promoting false birther conspiracies about our first Black president. The characterization of Mexican immigrants as, quote, criminals and rapists. The defense of white supremacists as, quote, very fine people. The Muslim ban while he was in office that targeted people solely based on their faith. As a gay man who fought for and cherishes the right to marry the person that I love, I am deeply concerned about the future of LGBTQ plus rights in our country. The overturning of Roe v. Wade with respect to abortion demonstrated how quickly established rights can be stripped away. When someone shows such disregard for the rights of other minority groups, we must take seriously the threat to our own. Now, when asked about crucial policy matters like healthcare on a recent debate, we heard vague responses from Donald Trump like, quote, I have a concept of a plan. This response from someone who has already served as president. Our nation's challenges require detailed solutions, not empty promises. We need leadership that understands complex policy issues and tax administration issues, all the way from economics to healthcare to civil rights. I want to be clear, though. This is not about traditional Republican values. Again, I respect genuine conservative principles about limited government and fiscal responsibility. No, this election is about choosing between democracy and dictatorship, between equal rights and discrimination, between truth and deception. This election is much more about character than it is about actual policies. In its simple terms, do we want someone in the White House who we can feel proud about insofar as their education and background goes? Or do we want someone who constantly and persistently degrades, bullies, and demonizes others? Donald Trump is a horrible role model for our children and for our country. His platform is all about division, hate, and supremacy. Some might say my perspective is alarmist, but as someone who has spent their entire career in public service and enforcing civil rights law, I can tell you that the threats to our democratic institutions and individual rights are real and immediate in this upcoming election. The next administration will shape the Supreme Court's direction for decades and influence civil rights enforcement policy and either strengthen or weaken the foundations of our democracy. Now, I stand before you today actually not to tell you how to vote, but to share my deep conviction that this election transcends traditional party politics. It transcends traditional party politics. This election is about preserving the America that welcomed all of our immigrant ancestors, about the America that my fellow service members died protecting, the America that promises equal justice under the law for all people, regardless of their race, religion, gender, or who they choose to love. So this election, let's choose together leadership that unites rather than divides, that builds up rather than destroys, and that upholds our highest ideals rather than appeals to our sordid instincts. Let us choose to stand on the right side of history. And that's why Lars and I have voted for Kamala Harris, and for our Maryland brothers and sisters, Angela Alsobrooks. We hope that you'll be standing on the right side of history with us on November 5th. So get out and go vote.